RCTP Level 4 510C to 511A Part 1. So we're going to look at the 510C level and let's look at crimps.
At the 510C to 511A level, we're going to start to get into smaller handholds. So the first thing we're going to talk about are crimps. If we look at a crimp, what you want to do for the most part is to have an open hand grip. So this is one where my thumb is just off to the side. We can also make this a closed hand crimp where I put my thumb on here. Now the other thing to note with crimps is that when I can hold this hold directly where my fingers are on the hold and my forearm is going at a 90-degree angle or shaped like a T, this is the maximum force I can put on the hold. So just to kind of help illustrate that, I built this little thing out of a T to kind of show that. When we move over onto a crimp that's on the side, it's the same thing. If I'm holding this crimp here, I'm not in that T fashion, so my forearm is going straight down rather than going off to the side. So if I hold this with my forearm in a 90-degree angle, then I'm actually holding it at its maximum strength position rather than holding it like this. So if you notice that you're struggling on a crimp, you can maybe just try to move yourself so that your forearm is in a 90-degree angle to this edge.
Now let's look at finger pockets.
So finger pockets can sometimes not be set a lot at gyms just because they do put a lot of strain on your fingers, and it's something where people can injure themselves, so some gyms kind of shy away from putting a lot of finger pockets on routes. This is why you might not experience it until you go outside. So the main thing that you want to be looking at when you're using a finger pocket is actually use your middle finger if you're going to do a mono. Now, mono is a really hard thing to do, and at this level you're not going to be doing a mono, but for the sake of teaching you how to do finger pockets is a really good exercise, because all that you want to do for a larger finger pocket is to complement this mono finger. So you can either use these two fingers off to the side, or you can rotate and use these two fingers. But you want to make sure that you're using that middle finger because it's one of your stronger finger tendon muscles, and then you can complement it.
Activating thumbs and assisted pinches.
All right, pinches can be a pretty hard hold for you when you're first starting out. And now why is that? Well, if we look at this, whenever we've been climbing before, most of our handholds have been like this, and our thumb is just kind of useless and hanging off to the side. So when you go into a pinch move, your thumb now becomes fairly active, and you haven't built up this strength yet. This has kind of been neglected, your thumb strength. So what I want you to do is to start doing an assisted pinch. Okay, what does that look like? Well, think about like assisted pull-ups, right? Like you don't just necessarily jump on to do pull-ups right away. You might need to use an assisted pull-up machine. Well, to do an assisted pinch just means that you have to get out of your head, read a hold a little differently, and try to grab it in a new position. So what that looks like is that I can grab this, nice jug, and rather than grabbing it straight from the top and leaving my thumb inactive, what I can do is move my fingers off to the side and make my thumb active. And now I'm still have all this, good finger grip strength, and it still feels like a jug, but now my thumb is now getting a little bit more involved, and it's like at, I don't know, let's say a 30% active level, whereas when I have to move over to a pinch, this is now at like an 80 to 90% active level to hold this pinch. So what I do to help get beginners to start to learn to climb on pinches, or just to get stronger at pinches, is just to climb like a 5'7", 5'8", or 5'9" route that has all these jugs or easy holds, and start to activate your thumb on them. So again, just finding the way that you can hold this differently to activate your thumb. Again, get outside of your head, look at other holds that you have all around, and start thinking about, how do I activate my thumb on all of these holds? And then you can finally move your way over to climbing pinches.
Hand-foot match. A hand-foot match happens when you put your hand and feet on the same hold. To do this, your hand normally begins on the hold, and you move your foot onto that same hold. And there's the hand-foot match. A hand-foot match can also help a shorter climber do a fairly reachy move. So we'll watch as Renee gets her foot up onto this big handhold here with a hand-foot match, and then she stands her way up. Use a foot chip as a handhold.
I recently did this on a 10, like at a 10D level on a root set indoors. The root setter kind of set a pretty awkward movement for me where my hands are constricted in the middle like this, so I just thought, screw it, I'm going to use a foot chip. And this is what you can do at like the 10C to 11A level and even up more above. This position, if you remember, is very narrow and I didn't like it, so I moved into a wider position by using a foot chip. Now, yes, more of my weight is now on this hand. However, you know, it's just now in a better body position, so actually a lot more weight has been transferred to my feet. The other thing that you notice is this is still a really decent crimp here. It's kind of like a micro crimp. You can still use a foot chip like this that's a lot smaller. It just means you have to transfer more weight onto your hand over here. But now you're in a better position, which will allow you to go up the wall.
Get comfortable being sideways. Before the 510C level, you might not have had to get sideways on a lot of roots. Most of the roots kind of like maybe you did a heel hook, but here we'll watch Brian use this corner and start to get sideways to help him get up the root. You might also get sideways on roots that don't have a corner, but it just helps you to dig in with your feet to help you really use your leg leverage to get you up a root.